One of the questions on my intake forms for my practice is, what are your hobbies? And honestly, that is the hardest question for people to answer, especially women, busy moms. They're giving their entire selves to their kids, their partners, their households. And I get it. I've been there. You are important. You need to take care of yourself, because if something happens to you, who's going to take care of you?
Welcome to Make It Ambitious, the podcast for bold thinkers, doers, and leaders who refuse to play it small. I am your host, Vic Moser, strategist, creative entrepreneur, and conversation junkie. Each episode, I sit down with industry disruptors, creative founders, and corporate game changers to discuss the strategies, mindsets, and turning points that have shaped their journeys. Whether you're building your personal brand, scaling your business, rewriting your career story, or dreaming up your next big thing, this space is your permission slip to go all in, because playing small was never the plan. I always like to start by asking people, like, if somebody has never met them before, and this is the first time they're seeing you, who are you beyond your title and what you do?
I am a nature-loving person out here in the Pacific Northwest with my clingy Velcro cat who I adore, my little bridie sourdough starter, and my amazing partner who takes care of all my cast iron pans.
So when we spoke before, you told me that you've said the office environment was like way too suffocating, like too much look busy culture, and not enough creativity. Mm-hmm. What was the moment you realized that that lifestyle just wasn't for you anymore?
I don't know that there was a moment. It was like a series of moments where it's like you're stuck in this cube and there's these external pressures of you must do this and all of this, like there's these deadlines, which may or may not be urgent. It didn't seem like it was all that urgent. So just all of that just kind of combining and being like, I can't do this anymore. I've got to get out, do my own thing, make my own schedule, be myself. I never felt like I was myself authentically in that environment where I was stuck in a cube, essentially.
Were you scared to walk away when you walked away? Or were you actually excited about it?
I mean, both things can be true, right? Yeah. So of course, I was completely scared. I was like, oh my gosh, what if this doesn't work? I'm taking this big risk. But I have amazing family support systems that made it a little easier. But yeah, and then it's just kind of exciting because it's like, oh my gosh, I can feel like myself again. I don't feel, again, suffocating. I have to have the windows open year round. I like to be able to breathe. I need that movement, all the things that I did not feel in the office environment.
You also mentioned that your family is full of entrepreneurs, but at first you resisted that path. So what finally made you admit it? Like, yeah, I am like them. Like, I am an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah. So about a year ago, I was just at a point where it's like, something's got to give. So I just kind of put it out into the universe. I'm like, something's going to change in 2025. I don't know what it is. And then through my Chamber of Commerce connections, I met some people and they're like, hey, you should try this Entrepreneur Academy. And I'm like, okay. It's like, sounds interesting. I'm like, I'm not sure I vibe with that, but something's got to change. And this was the door that opened for me. And I started that in February. It was a 7-month kind of intensive class. And like the day one, It was great. Day one, they're like, here's all the, traits of an entrepreneur. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am all of these. And I'm like, this is me. This is why I don't do well in an office. This is why I don't do well in XYZ. This is why I have to have free flowing attitudes. And, it was basically, to put into the words of one of the instructors, like, let your freak flag fly. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to do this.
Oh my gosh, for sure. It's so funny because I felt the same way in my journey when I was in corporate. I was like, wait, but so they describe you as an intrapreneur because you're trying to like be a business inside of the corporation, right? And I was like, wait, what does that say about me then? But like, I never thought of it from that perspective either. Would you mind telling me a little bit about that experience with the school? Like, and then was it like in person? Was it online? Like how was that whole thing?
Yeah, great question. So it was all online, which I was a little apprehensive about because I like interacting with people. I like being, even though I'm very much introverted, I still like being out in with people and seeing them face to face so I can get a little more of the nuance and right. So I was like, I don't know, a 6-hour online class. But by the end of the day, like I said, it was 6 hours of Zoom. And I was so invigorated. Like, how did this time fly by? And that was the first class. And it was, again, just kind of like you shut off your phones, you don't look at your emails. You're basically, okay, we're going to focus on you and your vision and how you can get your business there and what do you need to do it. And looking at what's your 10-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? What's your 3-year plan? What's your 1-year plan? And basically, how do you get all those steps together to get to that 10-year goal? So that's kind of where it was like, okay, this is it. And like I said, I've never had a Zoom that was 6 hours that felt like it was 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. I've been through a boot camp before, so I know exactly how that is, but mine was in person. And we were there from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then after that, we had to create projects. It was like a coding boot camp.
Oh, wow.
So we have to create projects. So we had to stay and get the TAs to help us later. And like I would get home sometimes at 1 a.m, sometimes at 2, sometimes at 3. And then I had to do it again the next day. So I get it. But on Zoom, it sounds brutal. Oh my gosh. But you said the time just flew by because it was so engaging and you were learning so much and loved it so much.
Yeah, it was really engaging. The material was extremely relevant and made sense. And you could see exactly what you needed to do, and it gave you clarity. And that was the big thing. That was kind of my word of the year for 2025 was clarity. And it really provided that. So I could sit back, really focus on exactly where I wanted to go, what my vision was, and that look back, the 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, and on back, and then get clarity as to how you could get there.
Oh, wow. I'm a vision board girly, but I've never done the word of the year. I'm definitely going to attach like the word to my whole thing. That sounds amazing. Yeah. Maybe later on too, after the episode or something, you can tell me a little bit more about this school because I'm really interested to learn more. So you chose naturopathic medicine because you wanted it to help with chronic disease prevention. What about the path called to you in the first place?
Yeah. So I was working in an intensive care unit pharmacy. So the pharmacy was actually located physically in the ICU. So just kind of seeing all the diseases and learning a lot about how to manage those in that acute phase and thinking like, because I knew I wanted to go back to school for healthcare. I just didn't know what. And then just thinking, it's like, I really want to figure out how we can mitigate some of these things. Not that ICUs aren't important. They're phenomenal, very important, and we absolutely need them. But what else can we do in the community to help prevent that? And then once we discharge these people, where do they go so that they don't come back to the ICU? And that's kind of what I wanted to learn. So then I discovered naturopathic medicine, and there was a school located where I live. So I was like, well, all the pieces just kind of fell into place, and I absolutely fell in love with the curricula and everything I learned. And it was a lot of fun. A lot of work, but yeah.
Oh, I could imagine. Yes. I mean, being a naturopathic doctor is just like being a doctor, at the end of the day. So you better really learn to treat your patients the right way. So I'm assuming it's a lot of hard work. I was looking into it actually, which is so funny to me when we connected on that. And there's a lot of talk about like stress and your gut and how that affects everything. So what did you learn from your patients working with them so closely about the whole stress and gut relation?
Yeah, it's huge. And this is kind of a two-part thing because I'm in a college. So I graduated 15 years ago. So in 2010. And what I saw in 2010 and what I saw in 2021 are two completely different scenarios. So, right. Yeah. So 2010, 2015, people were very stressed. They were working hard, but you could do some gut things and you could do a little bit of supplements and people would get better quicker. That was my experience back then. Then we had the pandemic and things changed and people really dealt with it in a lot of different ways, and how they managed their stress was different because, again, things changed, schedules changed, schools changed, everything changed, right? So what I started seeing in 2021 was as people started doing more remote work and their schedules did not allow for break time. Like if you're in an office, even though neither of us really felt good there, you could still get a little bit of socialization. There were break times just kind of built in between meetings, and you could walk around.
Break room,
absolutely, you had a break room. But then folks started working remotely, and the breaks were gone. And people just could not figure out how do I word this? They weren't doing well and they were stressed and they couldn't get those natural break times in that new remote environment. And they felt glued to their computers in a way that I didn't experience when I was in a cube farm pre-pandemic. It was a different gluing of the computer essentially. So working with patients and they were so stressed and unable to disengage from work in a meaningful way. And no matter what I threw at them, whether it was food, whether it was supplements, it wasn't working. They weren't getting better. So finally, I'm like, I'm going to kick it old school. I'm going to go back to herbal teas. We're going to talk about break time. We're going to talk about how to do this. And the nice thing about herbal teas is that you can get a decent amount of nutrition in. It forces a little bit of a break time. You've got the nice, just physical warmth, steam, taking deep breaths that's built into that activity. And then we can add some nutrition to it that even when you're stressed and your gut isn't functioning as optimally as we would like, they're going to get better. So that's kind of where that came about. And what really triggered it was I was working with folks that were having these horrible GI things. And again, no matter what I was doing, they weren't getting better. They'd go on a vacation. They'd take a deep breath. They would turn off all their electronics. They would eat junk food and feel great. So clearly the vacation, the break time, there was something going on to that. So how could I manufacture that break time into their busy, chaotic schedule where they're tied to their computer? So that's kind of how things changed after the pandemic and how I was treating people and the differences with stress between that. It's been interesting evolving.
So herbal teas became kind of like your therapy of choice, I guess, for your patients then at that point. Why do you think it was such a powerful tool? Tell me more about that. Why that therapy worked so well for your patients?
The simple things seem to work the best, whether it's going outside every day, taking deep breaths, getting good sleep, getting movement. So that's kind of always been my premise, what we call it nature cure. But that's always been just kind of my philosophy and how I work with patients. But in terms of the tea and how I developed it, like you said, those teas, they are a little hard to take. So when I went about developing my teas, I wanted people to enjoy them, especially because I work with teenagers too. And I wanted them to be able to enjoy their beverage and their medicine, as it were. So when I work with these, and I don't market them as supplements, I market them as tea because I see it as a daily part of life. So I want people to enjoy it. So that's kind of where I come about it. I come about it as a place of enjoyment, a place of renewal, not a place of medicine, if that makes sense. So I want the teas to taste good, but at the same time, be very inspired by medicine and the magic of plants. I think plants are very magical. Look at, environmental works. Plants are just phenomenal in what they can do. So being able to harness that magic from the plants into a vehicle that tastes good, inspires joy, and allows folks an opportunity to take a deep breath is kind of my core values and my mindset when I intentionally craft these teas.
Wow, that totally makes sense though, because don't get me wrong, I am a coffee person through and through. I will never abandon my coffee for tea. I love my coffee. I'm such a coffee person. But at the end in the night, I want to enjoy a cup of warm tea and just sit and just take a deep breath and meditate right in my journal and just, so I totally get that. And if you enjoy that while also it helping you with whatever it is that you need, what a magical thing. You're already enjoying these magical things, so why not? Yeah. You did mention to me, though, that you couldn't find the blends that you needed for your patients. So you created your own. And there's the entrepreneur. She was born. So what did that creative process look like?
Yeah. So again, having studied herbs quite a bit in school and then worked with them a lot over the last 15, 20 years, there's a lot of herbs I knew I didn't want to include. And that's kind of where I started. It's like, what are the herbs I really want to make sure that I included different blends and how to do that? And what are the herbs I want to make sure I don't have? Because that's kind of a huge part of creating these and looking at what was commercially available. And the other thing is I wanted to create loose leaf teas because there's so many microplastics in the tea bag and there's so many other problems with tea bags that folks may not consider. So I wanted to have that ecological environmental component to that and be able to have the loose leaf teas, which I think can be a little more powerful. So yeah, there's some herbs that I won't use for a multitude of reasons, whether they might create more problems, unintentional, of course, in health. For example, licorice root tastes great. Folks like it. It has a sweet taste. So you see it in a lot of teas. The problem with that I see, and I don't use it, is because for some people, it can raise blood pressure. And I'm already seeing people having problems with their blood pressure. So I don't want to create a higher blood pressure. And then if you're looking at it like you've been to Chinese medicine and doctors and seen that it's more of a damp herb. And especially like in the winter, it's kind of a cooling herb energetically. So I don't want those cooling herbs, especially in the winter, and especially if it might raise somebody's blood pressure. So that's just one example of an herb I won't use. So yeah, I just trying to think about exactly, and I want them to taste good. I want people to enjoy drinking them. And I want, again, the entrepreneur, I want repeat customers, because if they enjoy drinking it, then they'll be back for more. And if they feel better, they'll be back for more.
Okay, so when you're deciding what herbs blends you want to make, or herbs, I don't know how to say it properly.
Depends on where you live.
English escapes me a little bit sometimes. So has there been a blend that was like a special blend for you, like that had like a special story or a special meaning so far?
Yeah, so that's going to go back to my first one, which I call Hug in a Mug, because that's what it is. And this is my one that was really created out of a need for folks to really get nutrition. So it's a nettle-based tea. So nettles are great for minerals. So that's why I really wanted that to be the star of that tea. But then I also wanted a couple of herbs in there that are great, and what I call kind of gut mind herbs. So they work in the gut, but then they can also help soothe your nervous system. So if you have problems with just feeling tense, feeling anxious and stressed, I wanted those herbs in there to just kind of heal that nervous system. And then lavender in there as well. So I really wanted this blend to be kind of relaxing, highly nutritious, but yet not sedating. So a lot of my customers do use this as their bedtime tea. Like you were mentioning earlier, you just want a nice cozy cup of tea at night. This is their bedtime tea, but it can be enjoyed all day without being sedating. So that's just kind of, that's my first tea. That's my favorite. It's my bestseller. So it's my Hug in a Mug.
That's your baby.
Yeah. Well, they're all my babies,
it makes
but yes.
yes, totally. That was like your first baby, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I get it. I feel like herbs like, to me at least, valerian root, that puts me out. So that's what you mean by sedating, right? Like it actually like completely, you're like gone. You're like, there's no driving after that. There's no nothing. It's just bedtime. So you mentioned that, having compostable packaging and all of that was really important to you. And you mentioned about the microplastics in the tea bags. What else do people not realize that is happening to them when they're consuming these microplastics from these tea bags?
Yeah, that's just it. We don't know what's happening. There's still a lot of research that's going on to try to determine exactly how these might be disrupting our systems. We don't exactly know yet, but we do know that they're there. We can do blood tests and we can see them. And one of the biggest sources of microplastics in our body is through tea bags, because the heat in the water will leach out some of those plastics. So that's, again, a huge reason why I don't want to use tea bags. The other thing is that with tea bags, they're not going to be as fresh as, my small batch bags are. So I like to have things to be as fresh as possible. So that's another reason why. And yes, I do want that compostable, because plastics are everywhere, and anything that we can do to kind of reduce that, I think, is good for the environment and good for just our souls. I want happy teas.
For sure. And I feel like there's so much convenience from the bags, right? Like that's why people like them. But to me, I kind of like the ritual of like getting my little herbs and putting them in whatever it is that you want to put them in. I have this like beautiful tea pot that I use, and I like kind of like the ceremonial aspect of it. Tea bag doesn't have that. You put the tea bag, you put the water, or vice versa. I'm not sure. Like same, like people are like ice first, drink first, then ice. Like you're like, I don't know, however you want to do it. We're not here to judge people.
Right.
But yeah. So what one of the biggest misconceptions from people about loose leaf tea, like if we had to educate the population who's like, no, I'm like a tea bag girly, like what are some misconceptions that they have?
I mean, yeah, the biggest one is convenience, of course. It does seem a lot more convenient to have a tea bag. So I do a lot of consumer education at my in-person events and tell them about, the different plastics and the other things to consider. And then I show them how easy it is and economical. You can get 3 times more tea in my package than you can in a tea bag. So we talk about the economics of it, how it is a lot more affordable to buy loose leaf tea, how they can buy just 1 or 2, like you said, little things to drink out of. I sell some on my website, little loose leaf things. I've got some nice fun. I had some swan shaped ones. I've reordered them because they're out because people loved them. I've got some cute little duck ones. So there are ways to do it. You can find, and the nice thing is, as tea's becoming a lot more popular year over year, there are a lot more opportunities for people now to be able to find nice teapots that are made for loose leaf tea in stores that are glass, metal, some silicone components that are plastic free. So yeah, there's consumer education, but really just if you're looking at finances are a huge issue right now. So I'm telling you, it's like, yeah, this might seem a little more expensive, but let's look at how much tea you get compared to a box of tea bags. This will last you 3 times longer. It's small batch, it's fresher, certified organic materials. And you get that nice, like you said, it's ceremonial, the aspect of it. It's again part of taking the break time back, forcing yourself to breathe, take interest, and get on with your day. Not be so stressed all the time. So hard.
100%. They can look so beautiful too. Like once they, the water and it blooms and everything, like it's just, it's totally different. I do want to touch up on the point that you made though about, you mentioned silicone. So like people don't buy plastic cups to make your tea. Like that's the worst, to put hot water in a plastic cup.
Or styrofoam,
like, make sure it's like glass or ceramic or metal or of some sort, like stainless steel or something. And also the brewer, I feel like I've seen so many brewer what is it called where you actually put the tea into sifter or whatever, like the one that holds the tea, if that's what you end up getting. I've seen some plastic ones too, and they just say like, oh, they're like eco-friendly plastic or something. But I was reading that like those eco-friendly plastics, because they're compostable or something, are actually made out of wheat, which for me is a bad thing because I am celiac. I cannot, like, if I use that, I'm definitely gonna get gluten from it. So that's very interesting. So let's pivot a little bit to your entrepreneurial journey. You run 2 very different businesses. How do you structure your time without burning out?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is a challenge. So I do have specific days that I focus on businesses. Obviously, my service business, people can reach out to me at any given time, but my service business, again, seeing patients, I've transitioned that to telemedicine, so it's a little easier to manage. So that I do on Tuesday afternoons, all day Thursdays and Friday mornings. And then my tea business, I focus on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday afternoons. So that is kind of one way I do structure it. And that's been super helpful in doing that. So that's kind of the big thing. And then I do make sure that, my hours of operation essentially are pretty much from 10 to 6. And I will veer a little bit from that, especially for networking meetings, because those are sometimes in the mornings or oftentimes in the mornings for me. So trying to figure that out. But I really do be intentional to keep on my schedule. I keep a pretty, I hate to say rigid calendar, but it's a good calendar to keep me both accountable to doing my tasks for my businesses, as well as taking care of myself and making sure I have time for friends and family. Because that's one thing that I hear a refrain from a lot of entrepreneurs, like, it's so lonely. I don't have time for friends. And I just think that's sad, because if you don't have time for friends, I mean, that's really, you gotta have time for your friends. I mean, that's so important, and that's part of your self-care. And if you need to schedule it, schedule it. And same with time with my partner. It's so critical because they're an important part of my life. How you spend your time is is your priorities, right? So that's how I try to schedule it and make sure that I make time for all of those different things, and making sure, like, my mornings, I try to get my exercise in. I go for walks. I'm listening to books. I'm listening to podcasts. So I'm very intentional with my scheduling, but I do always make sure that there's time for me, there's time for my friends, there's time for my family, and there's time for my hobbies.
Even if you have the friendships, even if you have your family, even if you have the hobbies, like swimming, to me, for example, like I've gotten into swimming recently, you want people who also understand what you're doing. And I'm actually working on that. Like because I realized for myself, like I needed a community where I can show up and co-work with someone and literally not feel lonely, but like we're both working on our business, but we're doing it together at the same time with a camera on, and I'm dedicating this time for this. That's something that I feel like we don't really have. But yeah, back to your routine. So you've established these very like sort of strict routines, if you will, like this day is specific for this thing. Do you find that there's a time like in the day or anything where you're more creative when you're trying to do more creative work? Or like, how does that work exactly? Or do you just get inspiration and you're like, I got to stop everything that I'm doing because I'm going to work on this now before it's gone,
Both. So my most creative time is in the morning. So that's why I schedule my long walks, my time outside then, because that's when I am most creative. And even if I am listening to, say, podcasts or books or whatever, I can, we all have our smartphones with us. I can get onto Loom and make a quick note on that, or note somewhere else and then go back to it. So that's kind of how I do all of that and be able to focus on my business. Yeah, so that's kind of where that is. And then I can do all the day-to-day practical stuff that I don't necessarily want to think about and want to do, but I have to do it later after I've been able to go outside and focus on my creative side.
I love that. You know why I love it so much? Because most of the advice out there is, like the eat the frog theory or whatever, like do the hardest thing first, get it out of the way, and then you can like relax. But it's like, no, because then you're giving to what you don't want to do the best of you, and then you have nothing left for the other stuff. That makes I feel like the way you're doing it is way better. I love that. I'm going to start doing that. I am the opposite though of you. Like I'm a complete night owl. Like my brain turns on at like 11 midnight. I don't know, like it just turns on and I'm like, okay, ideas. I need to do it. Like, but I never thought about like just pulling up Loom and just record it there to like have it somewhere, saved. So you mentioned your walk. So tell me more about this. You told me that you solve business problems better on the trails than like in an actual office.
Oh yeah.
So what is it about nature you think that unlocks your thinking or your creativity?
Yeah, so it's two things. It's both nature and movement, right? So, there's some science that shows, if you get good bilateral movement, gets your brain turned on, plus being outside in and amongst, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, so I've got trees everywhere and I've got hills everywhere. And it's just get your blood flowing and really can maximize blood flow to your brain, essentially. So that's just where I get my best thinking. And when I'm biking, you're not getting as much of that, but I get good, again, movement helps me think better. And I've just known that about myself for quite a while. So I try to maximize that and get outside. If I can't get outside, if I have to go to the treadmill, I'll go to the treadmill and it's fine. It's just not ideal because I really do better taking deep breaths, getting all that oxygen in from the trees. And again, I'm a lover of nature. So that's just my place. It's my happy place.
I get it. I get that. My happy place is the beach, so I understand. And it's also nature. And I like listening to the waves and just putting the feet in the sand and like earthing, I guess, if you will. So I totally understand that. For people who might not know, I'm sure everybody probably knows, but just in case there's somebody out there who doesn't know, can you explain what bilateral movement actually means?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So basically bilateral movement, you're getting both your arms and your legs moving. So a couple of great examples are walking, running, swimming, cycling to a lesser extent, unless like you're on a stationary bike and you're getting your arms moving, but it's best to have both arms and legs moving. But again, if you're injured or if something else is going on, even just doing inside and just, a couple of steps and getting your arms moving, anything that you can do to get movement where you can get movement is going to be helpful. So yeah, not everyone is able to go outside and get nice long walks in. And you don't have to. That's the great thing about movement is you can find movements that work to you and you can make adaptations for that.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah. And then bilateral
Mhm.
stimulates your brain. Is that why? What does it do to your thinking and your brain?
Yeah, basically you are stimulating a couple of things. You are stimulating your brain both with the movement as well as just the circulation and the blood flow going to your brain. And then getting the deep breathing going as well, which helps with oxygenation. So it's a lot of different things. There are people smarter than me that have done a lot of research on this, and I have not read that in a while, but it's out there.
I love that. No.
Mhm.
Thank you for telling me a little bit more. I love learning new things, and when you say bilateral, I imagine it meant both sides, but I just wasn't sure exactly about like how does that work. So I'm definitely gonna do more research on that for sure because that's so interesting to me. Now, talking about having fun and just going on the trails and all of that, why do you think people feel like they need permission to rest and just have fun?
I wish I had a better answer to this question because one of the questions on my intake forms for my practice is, what are your hobbies? And honestly, that is the hardest question for people to answer. And that really floored me for a while. And I'm like, what do you mean that's hard to answer? What do you mean you don't? So I started diving deeper into that. And when I would see people that had a problem with that answer, and that would be like the first place where I go. I was like, I get it. You're here for all these things and we'll get into this. I was like, but why is that such a hard question for you to answer? And a lot of it came down to, especially women, busy moms, they're giving their entire selves to their kids, their partners, their households. And I get it. I've been there. So doing a lot of education with them on you are important. You need to take care of yourself because if something happens to you, who's going to take care of you? So a lot of that education. So coming up with it's like, okay, well, what do you like to do? Yes, you have permission. And I will write prescriptions like you have permission to go on a walk. You have permission to take breaks. If you need a letter for your employer, I'll write it because these are, reasonable accommodations, right? Taking your 15-minute breaks is a reasonable accommodation and should not be, controversial, but here we are. So I think just that, and there's just a culture of working, must be more productive. And then we have conversations like, okay, well, you realize that if you go and take this 15-minute walk, the research shows you will be more productive than if you work straight through. So go take the walk, go feel better, take some deep breaths, and then come back renewed. So I think there's a cultural component. I think there's a, wanting to be everything to everybody and a guilt component to it. So everybody's got their own reason for it, but giving people permission to relax and rest is a huge part of my practice sometimes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. As a recovering perfectionist and productivity person, I totally get it. So what happens to our body when we decide enough is enough and we actually do rest?
Yeah. So a few different things can happen. One, the rest does need to be intentional. It can't feel forced. You really do need to find something you like, take a deep breath, do whatever it takes. And everybody has a different way to do it. So you have to figure that out for yourself, what it's going to be, but giving yourself permission. Some people do great with journals. Some people nice soak in the hot tub, different things that work for different people. But what that's going to do is that's going to also reset your nervous system essentially, because if your nervous system is focused on work, you need to train your nervous system how to relax again. And that you have to train to rest. And I talk to people about that too, because it's not, if you've been going years without a proper rest, without thinking about it, without scheduling it, it takes time to bring it back in. So you have to essentially train for it and you have to think about it in terms of that. So maybe you start with 2 minutes of just silence or journaling or walking, and then you can kind of work that way up, taking your deep breaths and training that nervous system to be relaxed so that blood flow can go to your guts. And that's what we need to have happen.
I love that. I'm definitely going to look into that more as well. I also read that you're an ultramarathon runner. Is there like a part of your run where you get your best ideas? Like, or like, tell me more about this ultramarathon running thing. I am definitely not a runner myself.
But you swim.
I feel like my lungs are going to explode. I hate running, actually. Like, I just cannot stand it. But I wanted to get into it. So tell me more about this.
Honestly, ultramarathoning isn't so much running as it is a mental game. And it's just about,
Oh,
it's all
really?
mental. Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. I mean, because essentially, if you're doing it, you are by yourself for long periods of time, and you have to be very comfortable with being by yourself. And that can be a mental challenge. And when I'm struggling mentally, I don't do well. And that's kind of where it shows up, as I can't get out there and do what I need to do to be successful in that. So knowing that it's just as much mental as it is physical is the first challenge with that. And then just getting out there and, again, setting aside the time, because it really isn't so much running as it is just being on your feet for long hours of time, going up and down hills, and being very comfortable with yourself, which is kind of what makes me a good entrepreneur. Is I'm very comfortable with myself because I've had to train. You have to train for it, essentially. And that's the one thing people don't realize about endurance events is you are by yourself a lot of times, and you have to be comfortable with that, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to be okay with the physical stress, because when you're down physically, your mental has to take over, and that's what ends up happening. In terms of where my creativity is the best, that's a good question. I mean, when you're suffering, you can be really creative sometimes, and I think mentally it is a suffering game sometimes. I mean, you get out of your comfort zone, and sometimes that's when you get creative. That's where entrepreneurs problem solve, right? Is when they're just uncomfortable and they're like, how can I make this better? What's the problem I need to solve? So there's that component of it too. But yeah, I don't know that there's a specific place in training where I'm more creative and thinking the best, because it is so mental and physical at the same time. And I was dealing with injuries the past few years. I've been healthy for the past year and a half, so I'm excited to really get back out and start training again.
I'm glad you're healthy.
Yes, thank you. It was a tough go there for a while, but now it's happy to get back out there and enjoy all the solo trails, and
wow.
fun.
It never occurred to me that not only you're training your body physically, because you have to physically train, but you have to train your mind. And that's what matters most at the end of the day, right? Because if your mind tells you cannot do this anymore, your body's going to give up. So I never thought of it in that perspective. This is amazing. So it's like a mental workout.
It is.
More than just like an actual body physical workout.
Yeah.
No wonder it makes you an excellent entrepreneur. I mean, hello, like you got to train your mind to do hard things and work through that yourself. Yeah. So that's basically what entrepreneurship is.
Exactly, right?
Totally.
Yes.
Wow. That is incredible. Well, I'm glad you're healthy now, and I'm glad you can get back out there because it kind of sounds like you enjoy it a lot. So I'm really happy for you. For anyone who's listening, who's like exhausted and overstimulated and just feeling guilty about resting, what's one small shift that they could make like this week that could actually change something for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, the biggest thing, give yourself permission to rest. Resting is important. Like we were just talking about ultramarathon training. Rest is a part of training. If you don't have rest days, you will get injured. That's all there is to it. So if you, as a busy person with whatever chaos your schedule brings, if you don't schedule time to rest, you're going to burn out. You're going to get injured, whatever that injury may look like. So just give yourself permission. And if you need to, because a lot of people just need to give themselves permission, and that's okay. It's important. You are important, and take that seriously, because you're important and you need to rest, and that's okay. You'll get back out there.
If there's one brave step that somebody can take, to make them feel better right now, what do you think that could be aside from resting?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And if we're talking, I'm going to answer this as a two-part, because I think there's two different questions in here. So if you want to do something brave, I would say find one new thing to do that you've either always wanted to do and just never had the courage. Go do it. community colleges have great classes. Local art centers have great classes. If you want to go take a dance class, go do it. I took an acting class last year. It was so much fun. Go.
Oh my
So much
gosh.
fun. Yeah.
I love that.
Do something you haven't done. And and the reason why I bring this up is a two-part. It may not feel great immediately, but you went out and did something. So that's awesome. Go do something new. I think that's the brave thing to do right now. And I think we get so busy with our regular schedules and we don't think about doing new things, but try a new food. Like I tried banana flowers this week. Crazy. They're bizarre, but super fun. So try a new food, learn how to cook it, go take a class that you've always wanted to do, or, go do a stand-up, take an improv class. I mean, just go do something new. You won't regret it.
Wow. It's so funny. Like we're so aligned in so many ways. I was looking into dance classes and acting classes, which is funny that you said I just had an acting class last year. And I was looking at a theater for improv classes because I want to become a better public speaker. So I figure I can start by that, like just putting yourself out there in that sense. Okay, so I have something in this podcast. I always ask my guests some rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask you some questions and you just tell me the first thing or things. I'm not going to cut you off or anything like that come to your mind. And this one's going to be a little tricky because herbal tea or coffee or both?
Both.
Oh, okay, good. Awesome. Morning routine that you swear by.
Morning routine that I swear by? I don't have one. I mean, really getting outside for a walk.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. For me, it's more like getting my Chemex and grinding my coffee and actually pouring it slowly and smelling it. I'm like, like if I don't start my morning like that, my day is not good. Yeah. Like I have to. Like that's what grounds me in the morning. I'm like, okay.
Grounds you. That's a great pun.
I smelled my coffee and I drank it. Now I can do whatever you want. Before that, don't talk to me. Don't breathe next to me. Don't look at me. Oh my God. Is there one herb everyone should have in their house?
Find one you like. I mean, everybody has such different tastes, and I don't want to tell everyone what herb to get. I just go out and discover new herbs. Find one for yourself. Go be brave, enjoy, try the different things, and you'll discover something new.
Okay. Is there one thing that nature taught you about business?
Expect the unexpected.
I love that. Awesome. So that's it. I love that. Let's leave it at that. Yeah. Expect the unexpected. Thank you so much for coming. Yeah. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I love learning so much about, your journey, how you pivoted in your career, and just how open and honest you are and just so giving with your advice and your life and your creativity and just sharing yourself with us. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.